Hello there reception, and welcome to Friday's Reading and Understanding of the World lesson. Today is the 22nd of January 2021 and our skill today is to listen to a story. This week we've been looking at the book Tidy by Emily Gravett, and we used our story mountain to work out what was happening in the beginning, middle and end. We've also looked a little bit more about woodlands because our story is set in a woodland. Can you tell me what you've learnt this week? Well, we have learnt first of all why woodlands are so important and how we can look after them by reducing, reusing and recycling our plastic. We've also learnt that a woodland is a habitat, which is a home for animals and mini beasts. Inside the woodland, it provides a home, shelter and food for the animals. For today's lesson, we are going to join in with the story. First, we are going to make a stick puppet. We are going to draw and cut around our picture, and then we're going to stick it to a straw, a stick, or even a pencil. As I read the story, I would like you to join in acting out the story with your stick puppet. Now, things you're going to need for today's lesson. So you're going to need something to make your stick puppet. You're going to need a pencil, paper, and some scissors to cut around. My top tip for today's lesson is that when you're cutting around your animal, if there's lots of really difficult bits to cut around, perhaps draw a shape around your picture, like a triangle or a square, and then you can cut around that. You are also going to need your listening ears. Now, on the next slides, I'm going to show you how to draw a butterfly, a badger, or an owl. But if you would like to make your own stick puppet with a different animal, pause the video now, go off and do that, and then you can skip ahead to the end where I read the story. If you would like to learn how to draw one of these animals, then stick around and ask a grown-up very nicely if they can skip ahead to the right section. So when you're ready, we'll get started. So the first animal that I'm going to show you how to draw is a butterfly. Remember to pause the video to give yourself enough time to catch up. There are 4 steps to drawing a butterfly. The first step is to draw a really long rectangle that has curved sides. Draw that on your piece of paper now. Okay, step 2, we're going to make the butterfly's wings. Now, the easiest way to do this is to draw 2 big circles on either side of your long shape, and if you do those at the top, then inside you can start drawing a pattern. Now remember, butterflies are symmetrical. That means they have the same pattern on one side as on the other. So I'm going to draw a pattern in one side and draw the same pattern in the other side. Step 3, I'm going to draw the bottom of the wings. So now I'm going to draw like a stretched circle that goes from my first big circle all the way around to the butterfly's body. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. And finally, I'm going to make my butterfly's antennae. To do that, I'm going to draw 2 straight lines from the top of the head, and then I'm going to draw 2 circles on top. And there you have your butterfly. Make sure you decorate and colour it in, cut it out, and attach it to a pencil or a stick, and you have your stick puppet. Okay, this one is how to draw Pete the Badger. Now there are 6 steps, and remember to pause the video so you can keep up. Step 1. Instead of drawing a circle for his head, I want to see if you can draw like an egg shape. That means that it is wider on the top and narrower on the bottom. Step 2. Now badgers are mostly white, black and grey, and they kind of have these stripes that go down their face. So I would like you to draw 2 long rectangles that go down their face, and we're going to shade them in grey. Next, at the bottom of these rectangles, we're now going to draw 2 circles for their eyes. Step 3 is the nose and the mouth. To draw the nose, you're just going to draw a small circle in just at the bottom and in between the 2 eyes, and then you might want to draw a nice big smiley face. Step 4, we're going to look at the badger's ears. Badgers don't have very big ears, so I am going to draw, almost like I'm drawing a circle, a curved line that goes at the top of their head. Inside is a lot darker than the outside, so I'm going to draw a darker semicircle on the inside too. Now we're going to draw the badger's body. I'm going to draw a circle. Now badgers' bodies aren't this shape, they're actually quite long, but I thought I'd make my badger a little bit cartoony. It's up to you if you want to draw a circle or a long body. And the 6th and final step is the arms and legs. And a simple way of doing this is to draw some rectangles at the top for the arms and at the bottom for the legs. If you want to draw your badger's tail as well, you can do that. Make sure you cut around your badger, stick it onto a stick or a pencil, and that's it complete. Okay, so this is how to draw an owl. There are 6 steps to drawing your owl, and this owl is a little bit cartoony. So the first step is we're going to start with the owl's body, and to do that I'm just going to draw a nice big circle on my page. Make sure you pause the video so you have time to keep up. Step 2 is I'm going to draw the owl's head. Now if you can see on this picture, I have drawn like another circle, stretched one this time, on top of the body. Step 3, owls have really nice big eyes. So I'm going to draw 2 big circles and then 2 smaller circles in the middle. I'm going to draw them inside their head, so it takes up all of the head. So there's my first eye, oops, and there's my first eye, and there's my second eye, and then in the middle I've got 2 smaller circles. Okay, step 4, I'm going to draw the wings, and a really easy way of doing this is by drawing 2 curved lines that look a little bit like semicircles. So there's 1 wing on one side and 1 on the other. Step 5, we're going to add the owl's beak. To do this, we're going to draw a triangle. And I don't know if you remember at school, but when we were learning triangles, we learnt there were 3 edges, and we learnt it by saying triangle. So let's add a triangle beak in. There it is. And then we can go to step 6. Now step 6 is all about the little details that you would like to add to your owl. I have added like a little pattern here where his fur is a different colour. I have added some detail onto the wings to make them look quite fluffy. And of course I've added some feet too. If you would like to add in some ears, owls have quite small ears depending on what type of owl it is. Some owls you can really see their ears and they're actually quite furry. But some owls, their ears are really flat to their head so you don't see them. So it's up to you whether you would like to draw some ears on your owl. Now your owl has lots of, especially if you've drawn some feet on, lots of little bits which might be quite tricky to cut out. So if you draw a shape around your owl and then cut around that shape, you can stick your owl onto a pencil and we can read our story. Let's read our story together. Are you sitting comfortably? This is Tidy by Emily Gravett. Deep in the forest lived a badger called Pete, who tidied and cleaned and kept everything neat. He tidied the flowers by checking each patch and snipping off any that didn't quite match. He tidied the fox by grooming his fur. He untangled each knot and each twig and each burr. He tidied the birds from the big to the small by brushing their beaks and then bathing them all. He picked up stray sticks, he swept and he rubbed, he polished the rocks and he scoured and scrubbed. So, when a leaf fell, well, Pete tidied up, but he still wasn't happy. Now the trees looked bare and scrappy. And so, to make it all look neat, Pete undertook a mighty feat. He dug up every single tree. But then it rained. There was a flood. And afterwards, a lot of mud. Dear. Pete called in the diggers, he called in the mixers, he called in the concrete, the rakers, the fixers. No mud, no leaves, no mess, no trees. Perfectly tidy and perfectly neat. This forest is practically perfect, said Pete. Oh, I'm hungry, he thought. I deserve a treat. So he hunted around for something to eat. But the beetles and worms that he usually found were under the concrete deep in the ground. And so Pete decided to go home instead. If he couldn't have dinner, he'd go straight to bed. But when he arrived and took out his key, there wasn't a door where the door used to be. Later that night, Pete tossed and he turned. His belly was empty, it rumbled and churned. As he lay in his mixer, wide awake, he started to think, I have made a mistake. So, the very next morning, when it got light, he set about trying to put everything right. The animals came from the strong to the weak, and they lent him a paw, a claw, or a beak. They put everything back as it had always been, but maybe less ordered and not quite as clean. And Pete, well, he promised to tidy up less, but if he succeeded is anyone's guess. The end. I hope you enjoyed our story this week. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week for some more learning. Bye everyone.